Welcome, dear friends, to our channel. Have you ever wondered what secrets lie buried beneath the sun-scorched deserts of the American Southwest? What ancient stories the wind still whispers across red stone mesas, across canyons carved by time itself? Tonight, we begin a journey into one of those mysteries. And today's story is, what happened to the lost gold of the Apache? Picture the land of the Apache in the Urs. The horizon blazes with a sun that never forgives, painting the rocks in hues of fire. Mountains stand jagged like broken teeth, their shadows long and sharp in the fading light. The desert floor shimmers as though it hides rivers of molten metal beneath the sand. It was here, in this vast and merciless landscape, that whispers of a hidden treasure began. According to the legend, the Apache people guarded a secret and unimaginable vein of gold hidden deep within their sacred mountains. Some said the treasure was discovered by accident. Others claimed it was revealed through ritual, a gift of the earth meant only for the people who belonged to it. But one thing is certain, the Apache did not use this gold for wealth, for greed, or for conquest. To them, it was dangerous, a burden rather than a prize. But to outsiders, Spanish conquistadors, and later American settlers, the very idea of gold in these lands was intoxicating. They imagined rivers lined with nuggets, caves filled with shining ore, riches beyond comprehension. And so they came, crossing deserts with mules and wagons, their eyes fixed on fortune. They came with shovels, guns, and dreams. What they found instead was death. Many of the earliest expeditions never returned. Travelers spoke of entire groups vanishing without a trace, their camps abandoned, their supplies untouched. Others were found lifeless in canyons, arrows embedded in their backs, or worse, their bodies mutilated in ways that suggested not just violence, but a warning. It was said that the Apache warriors defended the gold with unmatched ferocity, striking swiftly from the rocks, disappearing back into the land as if the desert itself had swallowed them. And so the whispers began, not just of treasure, but of a curse. Even those who survived spoke in hushed tones of strange occurrences. Footsteps in the night when no one was there. Shadows moving across the ridges under the moonlight. Coyotes howling in patterns that felt almost human. They would say the Apache gold was not guarded by men alone. It was guarded by the spirits of the land, spirits that hungered for vengeance against all who trespassed. To take the gold was to invite death. And yet, greed is relentless. Each failure, each tragedy, only seemed to sharpen the obsession. By the mid-Urs, prospectors, soldiers, and fortune seekers filled the taverns of Arizona with stories of Apache gold. They drew crude maps on bar counters, boasting of secret trails, hidden mines, and directions given by dying men. And always, the story ended the same way, with silence, with blood, or with a body left for the vultures. But perhaps the most famous name tied to the legend had not yet entered the stage. A German immigrant, a quiet man with secrets of his own, who would come to be known as the Dutchman. His story, and the trail of mystery he left behind, would turn this legend into one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the American West. But before we meet him, we must understand the land itself and why the Apache swore no outsider would ever claim its gold. In the next part, we will walk deeper into the Superstition Mountains and into the shadows where men vanished chasing dreams of fortune. As the story unfolds, we step deeper into the turbulent years of the mid-Urs. The desert, so vast and unforgiving, was more than just a landscape. It was a chessboard where tribes, settlers, soldiers, and outlaws played their dangerous games. And at the very heart of this battleground lay the Apache people, fierce, proud, and determined to protect their land. Legend has it that the Apache warriors discovered a seam of extraordinary gold hidden within the Sierra Estrella Mountains of Arizona. Some say the gold was unearthed during sacred rituals, others whisper it was taken from Spanish prospectors who never made it back to their homeland. Whatever its origin, this treasure became more than metal. It was both a weapon and a curse. Imagine the scene: golden nuggets, as large as fists, hidden away in secret caches, carried through canyon trails under the cover of moonlight. Warriors would melt the gold into crude ingots, stashing them in caves known only to the initiated. The treasure was said to be so great that had it ever reached a city, it could have shifted the balance of empires. But power attracts danger and betrayal. Stories tell of a group of Mexican miners who were captured by the Apache while seeking fortune. Instead of being slain, they were forced to work under close guard, extracting the gold from the mountain veins. For months they labored, bound by fear, their pickaxes echoing through the valleys. But when they tried to escape, carrying whispers of the treasure with them, the warriors struck them down, ensuring the secret remained hidden. Yet not all secrets can be kept forever. In the years that followed, rumors spread beyond the Apache lands. Traders, scouts, and settlers began to speak in hushed voices of an Apache gold stash too vast to measure. Some called it the Lost Dutchman's Hoard, others the Sierra Estrella treasure. But to the Apache, it was simply there. Gold, blood earned, blood protected. The legend grows darker when the US cavalry enters the tale. During campaigns to control the Southwest, soldiers heard stories from captured tribesmen. They too began searching, probing valleys and caves, convinced they could seize the gold to finance the wars of a growing nation. But time and again, expeditions returned empty-handed or did not return at all. One chilling account speaks of an entire patrol vanishing in the Estrella Range. When a search party followed, they found no survivors, only scattered bones and rusting rifles beneath the shadow of jagged cliffs. Some claimed the Apache ambushed them. Others whispered the mountain itself swallowed them whole, guarding its secret like a living spirit. Even more haunting are the tales of betrayal within the Apache themselves. A few renegades, tempted by promises of wealth, attempted to reveal the location of the treasure to outsiders. But the punishment was swift and merciless. For the Apache, gold was not meant to be sold or flaunted. It was a sacred responsibility. To betray that trust was to forfeit not only one's life, but one's spirit. And so the gold remained hidden, guarded not just by warriors, but by fear, silence, and the harshness of the desert itself. Those who sought it too eagerly met with poisoned arrows, blistering heat, or the despair of endless canyons where every trail looked the same. Many who chased the legend simply disappeared, swallowed by the wilderness, their names fading into dust. But if the treasure was truly lost, how do the stories persist? Why do whispers of golden caches continue to surface, generation after generation? Perhaps, just perhaps, the Apache did not bury their gold in one place at all. Perhaps it lies scattered, hidden in multiple strongholds, each known only to a select few who took the knowledge to their graves. And if that is true, then the legend may never die. For every shadow cast by the Estrella Peaks at sundown, for every desert wind that howls through abandoned camps, the story of the lost Apache gold returns. And with it the lore of untold riches, and the danger that always follows. As the whispers of gold spread across the frontier, the desert became a place of restless dreams and haunting shadows. Men from distant towns packed their mules, kissed their families goodbye, and marched into the sun-baked wasteland, all chasing the same glittering promise. But in their hunger, they forgot something vital. The desert is alive, and it remembers everything. Many who followed the trail of the Apache gold never returned. Their camps were found abandoned, pots left half filled with beans, ashes still warm but no trace of the men themselves. Some said they turned on each other, driven mad by greed and thirst. Others swore they heard cries in the night, cut short by silence, as if the desert itself had swallowed them whole. One story tells of a group of 6 prospectors who entered the Sierra Madres after hearing a drunk whisper about the treasure. For weeks they followed ravines and canyons, marking rocks with chalk so they could find their way back. They found old fire pits, shards of broken pottery, and strange etchings carved into the stone since they were close. But on the 21st night, their campfire was found smouldering, the men gone without a trace. The only clue left behind was a single set of handprints in the dust pressed deep, as if burned into the earth. According to Apache elders, those handprints were not human. They belonged to spirits guardians of the treasure who marked trespassers before dragging them into the underworld. Outsiders laughed at the story, but even the most hardened trappers crossed themselves when they heard it. Because in the desert, when a man disappears without a scream, without a struggle, it is not just chance, it is something darker. The Spanish priests once warned settlers that the Apache gold was blood gold, cursed from the day it was hidden. They claimed that in the Urs, when conquistadors forced tribes to mine for gold, countless lives were lost under the lash. When the Apache finally drove the Spaniards out, they took that stolen wealth and sealed it away in it as treasure, but as a burden. Their medicine men sang chants, calling on the land itself to guard it, to punish any who sought it in greed. It was not wealth they buried, but a wound and wounds, left untended, fester. Travelers told of strange lights flickering along the canyon walls, dancing like torches where no one was there. Some heard the drumming of hoofs echoing at night, though no horses could be found. And others swore they saw figures tall, painted in ash watching from the cliffs, only to vanish when approached. The desert was warning them, but men rarely listen when gold blinds their eyes. In one chilling account, a prospector named William James staggered into a trading post on the edge of Apache land. His skin was blistered from the sun, his lips cracked, his eyes wild with terror. He raved that he had found the canyon, had seen the gold gleaming in the rock, but that they would not let him take it. When asked who, he only whispered, "The shadows with voices." Within 2 days, William was dead, his body rigid, his face frozen in an expression of unspeakable fear. Such stories spread quickly, whispered in saloons and around campfires. Yet they did not stop the greedy, only drew more. Because for every tale of loss, there was always a whisper that someone else had succeeded, that a lucky man had walked away with a pouch of Apache gold, heavy enough to change his life forever. And so, the cycle continued: hope, pursuit, and disappearance. But behind the greed lies a deeper mystery. Was there ever truly a treasure at all? Or was the gold just a story, a weapon of legend forged by the Apache to keep strangers out of their sacred lands? Some historians say yes, that the tale was a clever warning born from centuries of bloodshed. But others point to fragments of Spanish records, to maps hidden in dusty archives, to the glint of gold artifacts that surface from time to time in trading posts. Whatever the truth, one fact remains: that desert still holds its secrets, and men still vanish chasing them. And so the legend deepened, spreading like wildfire, shaping not only the dreams of prospectors but the very identity of the land itself. Because when you walk the desert trails at night and the wind howls through the canyons, you begin to wonder, are you truly alone, or are unseen eyes watching, guarding, waiting? The story of the lost Apache gold is not just about treasure. It is about obsession, how the promise of wealth can twist men into shadows of themselves, and how the land itself seems to conspire against those who seek it. By the late Urs, in entire expeditions were being organized, groups of men setting out with wagons, rifles, and maps copied from whispers in taverns. But the desert greeted them all the same, with silence, with heat, and with secrets it refused to give up. Some expeditions returned broken, with men so thin they were hardly recognizable, eyes staring blankly at nothing. Others returned with fewer men than had set out, claiming their companions had vanished in the night, lured away by phantom lights or stalked by unseen figures among the rocks. And a few never returned at all. One of the most haunting tales came from an army scout named Matthew Riley. In 1871, he was hired to guide a group of 6 men who claimed they had discovered an authentic Spanish map handed down from a missionary who once worked with the Apaches. The group set out, full of laughter and bravado, but weeks later, Riley stumbled back alone. His clothes were torn, his skin burned, and his words barely coherent. He claimed that one by one, the men vanished at night, taken by figures with glowing eyes that moved through the sagebrush without making a sound. When he fired his rifle at them, the bullets passed through like smoke. On the last night, he awoke to find himself surrounded by a whisper's voice speaking a language he could not understand, though he swore the words echoed inside his skull. Terrified, he ran blindly through the desert until he collapsed at the edge of a settlement. The settlers who nursed him back to health reported that Riley would wake screaming, insisting that the treasure was a leaf that it called to men not to give, but to consume. He died within the year, never fully sane again. There were other accounts too, written in yellowed newspapers and letters that survived the passing of time. Stories of men who claimed to find the treasure, only to lose everything they owned within months. Their gold brought no fortune, only sickness, violence, or madness. Some ended their lives, muttering about being followed by shadows, by a drumbeat that only they could hear. Among the Navajo and Apache themselves, these tales were not surprising. They spoke of the land as a living being, one that demanded respect. The treasure, they said, was not meant to be touched, for it was born of suffering and death. To seek it was to invite imbalance, and imbalance always drew the attention of dark forces. One elder described it simply: "The gold is a fire buried in the earth. If you dig it up, it will burn you." His words echoed the sentiment of many tribes that wealth stolen or hidden cannot be reclaimed without consequence. By the turn of the century, the legend of the Apache gold had spread beyond the Southwest. Treasure hunters from as far as New York and even Europe arrived, lured by the dream of riches. But most found nothing but sand, stone, and silence. The few who claimed to succeed disappeared quickly into obscurity, their stories ending as abruptly as they began. And so the legend grew heavier, wrapped in fear. The desert was not just a landscape but a guardian, its mesas rising like watchtowers, its canyons echoing with secrets that refused to die. To walk there at night was to feel the weight of countless eyes, watching from the shadows of rock and sage. Some said it was the spirits of the Apache warriors, sworn to guard the gold for all eternity. Others believed it was something older, something born of the desert itself, using the legend to protect the balance of the land. Even today, hikers report strange phenomena in those same canyons. Electronics fail without reason, compasses spin wildly, and sudden chills pass through the air even under a burning sun. Some claim to hear footsteps pacing just out of sight, or whispers that vanish when they turn to listen. And when they leave, they swear the land watches them go. For many, the treasure of the Apache is not gold at all. It is the mystery, the lore of something hidden, something forbidden. It is the desert itself, vast and unyielding, holding stories older than memory. And perhaps that is the true curse, that men cannot resist searching, even when they know the search may cost them everything. Because in the end, the desert keeps its secrets. And the question remains, echoing through time like the cry of a distant coyote, what really happened to the lost gold of the Apache? As we reach the end of this story, let us return to the land itself. The desert, with its endless horizons, red mesas, and whispering winds, has always been more than just earth and stone. For the Apache, it is memory. For the Navajo, it is balance. For all who walk its paths, it is a teacher silent but eternal. The legend of the lost gold endures, not because of the treasure itself, but because of what it represents. The greed of outsiders who sought to claim what was not theirs. The resistance of the Apache people who defended their home against invasion and exploitation. And the mysterious way the desert punishes those who dig too deep, reminding us that some things are not meant to be taken. Generations later, the gold has never been found. Maps have been drawn and redrawn, tales retold in every corner of the Southwest, yet the earth remains silent. Perhaps the treasure is gone, melted into time and dust. Or perhaps it waits still, hidden beneath the mesas, guarded by shadows that do not forgive. But maybe the real treasure is not in the ground at all. Maybe it lies in the stories, warnings passed down, the sense of respect instilled by fear, the reminder that land and spirit are intertwined. Because when we chase only gold, we risk losing sight of what is sacred. Think about it. If the treasure were discovered tomorrow, would it truly bring fortune? Or would it unleash the same misfortune and madness that haunted those who sought it before? Would men fight and die over it again, repeating history's cycle? And if so, perhaps it is better that the gold remains lost forever, part of the desert's silence. The Apache elders were right to say the earth remembers. Every canyon, every stone, every shadow at dusk carries the weight of the past. And if you stand alone beneath those vast skies, you may feel it too, watchful presence of something greater than yourself. Something ancient, patient, and powerful. So the question remains, what happened to the lost gold of the Apache? No one knows for certain. But perhaps the answer is not in finding it, but in listening to the silence it left behind. Because in that silence, there is a lesson. A reminder that greed can blind us, that the land cannot be owned, and that some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved. And as the desert wind carries the last echoes of this story, we are left with respect for the people who lived it, and for the land that still holds its secrets. Perhaps that is the only truth we are meant to keep. Thank you for walking this path with me, for listening not just to a tale of lost treasure, but to the deeper voice of the desert itself. May it remind us all to tread carefully, to honor what is sacred, and to remember that not all that glitters should be taken. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe.